Hello and welcome. Before we get into today's stories, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Also, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. It was the kind of Michigan winter where the snow buried everything in silence. On January 30th, 2014, a woman driving along a rural road spotted something odd. 3 black garbage bags dumped on the shoulder. At first glance, it looked like trash. But curiosity got the better of her. She stopped, opened one of the bags and froze. Inside were human intestines. Just a few yards further, she saw another bag, this one holding a human head. Police were called immediately, and soon the scene exploded with investigators.
Investigators came out to check it out. That's when they found body parts in several different garbage bags. Some of the body parts included a head and a torso. Initially, they couldn't identify the sex. Now, as you said, they believe it is a single male man who was disposed of after his body parts were separated into these trash bags. Then this morning, they got another call about a piece of trash in a bag outside of an off-ramp nearby. They reported that in that bag they found clothing that was charred and some paperwork that was related to the case, but no more body parts. They're hoping that with the information they have, with the paperwork and the clothing, and now this autopsy, they'll be able to piece this together, but at this point, they do not have a victim identified.
More bags turned up nearby, each stuffed with body parts. In total, a torso, limbs, and organs were recovered. Along with the remains, detectives found a jigsaw with saw blades, burned paperwork, and clothing. It was clear this wasn't just a killing, it was a calculated dismemberment. At first, there was no name to the victim, just the mangled remains of a white male. But fingerprints told the truth soon enough. The victim was 32-year-old Ramsey Scrivo, a man who had gone missing only days before. And as investigators traced his final days, all eyes turned toward the one person who should have protected him most, his mother, Donna Scrivo. Ramsey Scrivo wasn't a stranger to hardship. He had battled health issues, including a seizure disorder, and in 2013 he'd lost his father unexpectedly. That loss shook him deeply. Neighbors described Ramsey as polite, quiet, someone who mostly kept to himself. But behind closed doors, his life was tangled up in something far darker, the iron grip of his mother, Donna. Donna Scrivo was a licensed nurse, a widow now trying to keep control of her household, but she wasn't the nurturing type. Friends of Ramsey would later testify that Donna constantly criticized him, treated him less like a son and more like a burden she wanted to manage. And as Ramsey tried to live independently, Donna kept pulling him back in, using his health struggles as leverage. It was around this time, just weeks before his death, that Ramsey reportedly grew more frustrated with her behavior. He confided to people that his mother was controlling and even unstable. Still, no one imagined how far things would go. By late January 2014, Ramsey was staying at Donna's condo. It should have been a safe space, especially for someone dealing with seizures. Instead, it would become the very place where his life was violently cut short. On January 30th, 2014, everything spiraled out of control. Ramsey was inside Donna's condo, the place where he'd been staying. Sometime that day, neighbors noticed odd activity. Donna carrying heavy trash bags, looking nervous, avoiding eye contact. What no one realized at the time was that Ramsey was already dead. Prosecutors later argued that Donna killed her son in that very home. The exact details of the murder are still chilling. Ramsey was strangled, and afterwards, his body was dismembered. Investigators would find signs that Donna had tried to clean up, but there were stains, cuts on furniture, and the smell of bleach that hinted at what had happened behind those closed doors. To cover her tracks, Donna stuffed Ramsey's remains into black trash bags, and then, as if it were just another chore, she began loading them into her car. Over the next day, she would drive across St. Clair County, scattering the bags like she thought no one would ever notice. But people did notice. and those discarded bags would soon tell the story Donna thought she could hide. The morning after Donna dumped those bags, workers along the roadside spotted something that immediately felt wrong. Black trash bags, torn open, with a foul smell seeping out. Inside, to their horror, were human remains. Police were called in, and soon investigators were collecting bag after bag from different locations across St. Clair County. As the pieces were brought together, it became clear they belonged to one person, a young man. It didn't take long before dental records confirmed the worst. It was Ramsey Scrivo. The boy who'd been struggling, trying to get his life back on track, had been brutally murdered, dismembered and discarded like garbage. The community was shaken. Ramsey's death was horrifying enough, but what left people speechless was when police revealed who the main suspect was: his own mother, Donna Scrivo. Detectives quickly pieced together a disturbing picture. Ramsey had been living with his mother, Donna, after his father's passing, but their relationship was rocky. Ramsey had been battling depression and struggling to find direction, while Donna, outwardly a grieving widow, was increasingly controlling. Police obtained surveillance footage that proved damning. Cameras showed Donna buying large trash bags, cleaning supplies, and even a saw at a local store, just days before Ramsey's remains were found. When investigators checked her car, traces of blood were discovered. The pieces clicked into place. Donna Scrivo wasn't a grieving mother of a missing son. She was the prime suspect in his murder. She'd poisoned Ramsey with prescription drugs, suffocated him, and then methodically dismembered his body. Afterwards, she scattered his remains along the roadsides, thinking no one would connect the dots. But the dots were connected, and the story that emerged was chilling. A mother who betrayed the very person she was supposed to protect. Police wasted no time. With the evidence mounting, Donna Scrivo was arrested and charged with the murder of her own son. The community was stunned. Neighbours remembered Donna as a soft-spoken woman who seemed devoted to Ramsey, often describing her as the grieving mother who had already lost so much. But behind closed doors, something far darker was brewing. In court, prosecutors laid out their case in painstaking detail. They argued that Donna had drugged Ramsey with crushed Xanax and Ambien, suffocated him, and then dismembered his body in the bathroom of her condo. They showed the jury receipts for cleaning supplies, the saw, and the trash bags, all purchased by Donna just before Ramsey's death. The defense tried to spin a different story, suggesting that Ramsey had been mentally unstable and may have harmed himself, with Donna only panicking afterward. But the physical evidence, blood in her car, surveillance footage, and her own inconsistent statements, was impossible to ignore. The jury didn't take long. Donna Scrivo was found guilty of first-degree murder and dismemberment of a corpse. The judge handed down a life sentence without the possibility of parole. The courtroom was silent. For many it was incomprehensible, a mother destroying her own child, but the evidence was clear, and justice, however heavy, had been served. With Donna Scrivo sentenced to life behind bars, the community was left reeling. The case wasn't just about a brutal murder, it was about betrayal at the deepest level. A mother who should have been her son's protector had become the very person who ended his life in a way too gruesome for most to even imagine. Ramsey's remaining family members were devastated. They had already endured heartbreak when his father passed away just a few years earlier. Losing Ramsey in such a violent, calculated way was a wound that would never fully heal. Many said the trial gave them closure, but it was the kind of closure that still leaves scars. For the public, the case became a chilling reminder that monsters don't always look like strangers lurking in the shadows. Sometimes, they're the people you trust the most, the ones sitting right across from you at the dinner table. Donna Scrivo spends her days now in a Michigan prison, her name etched forever into one of the state's most disturbing true crime stories. Ramsey, meanwhile, is remembered by friends as a kind-hearted man who struggled, but didn't deserve the fate his own mother had planned for him. It was a case that left people asking one haunting question: how could a mother do this to her own child?
Michelle were close friends, is that right?
I considered her my sister.
When was the last time that you and Michelle actually spoke?
I don't know. I don't remember seeing her at the meeting.
back in December?
I think so, yeah.
How do you feel about the fact that she's missing?
I wish you guys would find her.
On Friday, May 27th, 2011, Michelle Lee was working a shift in the maternity ward at Kaiser Permanente Medical Center in Hayward, California. This was the final night of her internship at the hospital, the last step in a program she'd been working toward for years. Not long before 7 p.m, she told a fellow nurse she was heading to her car to retrieve some cold medication. Her white 2006 Honda CR-V was parked in the garage. Michelle walked out into the evening and vanished. When she failed to return, her supervisor and a security guard grew concerned. Together, they searched the garage. While there, they spotted a white SUV driving up the ramp. The vehicle stopped abruptly, reversed, then sped away out of the garage. It was Michelle's Honda, but the driver was not Michelle. It was her former friend, Giselle Esteban, behind the wheel. Michelle's Honda was later abandoned half a mile away at a condominium complex. At the hospital, police were called, and the first troubling clues appeared. Blood was found on the pavement where Michelle's car had been. Inside the hospital, her purse was left in a break room. Investigators knew right away they were not dealing with a routine disappearance. Using the Honda's anti-theft tracking system, police located the vehicle. More blood was found inside, along with an ID badge from Samuel Merritt University. It did not belong to Michelle, it was one Giselle had stolen. Friends of Michelle told investigators that if there was anyone who might wish her harm, it was Giselle Esteban. They explained that the two women had once been close, but their friendship had unraveled. Now, they were enemies. On May 28th, just before midnight, police spoke to Giselle. She admitted being at the hospital the night before, but claimed it was for a routine reason. She said she was pregnant and wanted to talk to staff about medical coverage. She even volunteered that she had seen Michelle walking toward the garage, but insisted it was coincidence and that she never spoke to her. When asked about her relationship with Michelle, her answers were bitter and contradictory. She claimed Scott Arasigan, her ex-boyfriend and the father of her child, had slept with Michelle. She blamed Michelle for destroying her relationship. At one point she said, "I don't know who she is anymore."
What do you think is going on with her?
I don't know. I don't know who she is anymore.
But as far as you know, this would be very unusual for her, right? To have just gone missing?
I don't know. I don't know Michelle anymore. I stopped knowing her a long time ago.
When detectives asked if she might have argued with Michelle that night, Giselle faltered. I don't recall. If I did, I would tell you. The story of Michelle and Giselle began years earlier. Giselle Esteban was born on February 4th, 1984, in Union City, California. She was raised in San Diego, the daughter of a Filipino family. Michelle Lair was born just months later, on October the 12th, 1984, also in San Diego, to a Vietnamese family. In high school, the two young women met and became friends. Michelle was outgoing, with a wide circle of interests and connections. Giselle was quieter, more withdrawn, a loner. They seemed mismatched, but they bonded. Some believe Michelle may have been Giselle's only real friend. Both shared a dream of becoming nurses. In the spring of 2003, they moved to the San Francisco Bay Area to pursue their college studies. Their paths soon diverged, but their lives remained entangled. Michelle briefly dated a fellow student named Scott Arasigan. After the romance ended, the two remained friends. Later that year, Giselle began dating Scott herself. The relationship lasted until 2005. After their breakup, Giselle discovered she was pregnant. In October 2005, she and Scott welcomed a daughter. They attempted to reconcile and live together for 3 years. During that time, Giselle dropped out of school and took a job at a daycare center, while Scott pursued his own career. By 2008, the relationship was over for good. Custody of their daughter became a battleground. Scott eventually won 80% custody, a decision that devastated Giselle. Their relationship remained volatile, though they sometimes resumed physical intimacy, which Scott later described as backsliding. Scott also revealed later that Giselle had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and that he eventually filed a restraining order against her. While Giselle's life was unravelling, Michelle's was on the rise. She graduated with her bachelor's degree and pursued nursing at Samuel Merritt University in Oakland. She was a full-time student while also working part-time as an accountant. From Giselle's perspective, Michelle embodied everything she no longer had: stability, opportunity, progress. Her resentment grew into something darker. On May 26, 2011, the day before Michelle disappeared, Giselle visited Samuel Merritt University, even though she was no longer a student there. She told a secretary she had an appointment with a counsellor. While the secretary stepped away, Giselle stole an ID badge belonging to an employee who had not yet started work. That same day, she tested the badge at 8:40 a.m. Later, between 5:11 p.m. and 7:11 p.m, she used it again in various locations around campus. She was attempting to access Michelle's schedule. Her efforts did not stop there. Giselle contacted a friend of Michelle's, fishing for her address. She called Samuel Merritt, disguising her voice as Jamie, and tried unsuccessfully to obtain Michelle's phone number. She also called Kaiser Permanente in Hayward on May 26th and 27th, attempting to find out when Michelle would be working. Every move pointed to planning. After Michelle disappeared, technology filled in the blanks. Her phone had travelled from the Kaiser garage to a rural area outside Hayward before returning near where her SUV was abandoned. Giselle's phone, meanwhile, had been in the hospital garage for 4 hours on May 27th. Investigators uncovered damning physical evidence. Giselle's DNA was found on the turn signal stock of Michelle's Honda. Michelle's blood was discovered on Giselle's shoes. The picture was clear. Giselle had lured Michelle to the garage, attacked her, likely with a knife, and killed her. Afterward, Giselle used Michelle's phone to call the hospital, posing as her, and claimed she would not be returning to her shift. But the call was placed to the emergency room, not the maternity ward, so the message never reached Michelle's supervisor. Giselle disposed of the body in a rural area about 15 miles from Hayward, before attempting to sneak Michelle's Honda back into the garage. Spotted by hospital staff, she fled and abandoned the vehicle elsewhere. On September 7th, 2011, police arrested Giselle Esteban for Michelle Lee's murder. At that point, Michelle's body had not been found. 10 days later, searchers discovered her remains. Giselle's trial began in October 2012. Her defense admitted she killed Michelle but argued for a manslaughter conviction instead of murder. They claimed her mental illness and her decision to stop taking medication explained her actions. The jury rejected this. Giselle Esteban was found guilty of murder and sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. Her earliest chance at release will come in 2029, when she'll be 45 years old. Realistically, in California, parole in cases like hers is rarely granted. The story of Giselle and Michelle began as an unlikely friendship between two young women with the same dream. It ended with one of them betrayed, murdered, and buried in a shallow grave, and the other condemned to spend the rest of her life behind bars. Giselle and Michelle began as two young women with similar dreams, yet jealousy, resentment, and unhealed wounds turned that connection into something lethal.
I asked you, can we just be honest about Michelle, because she's the one issue that I really, really am having a hard time dealing with.
That's not what you said at all.
Yes! Okay,
we
well
didn't
then
talk for
fine.
days.
Starting from now, we are going to be honest about Michelle. Do you understand me? Whether you sleep with her, whether you share food with her, whether you talk to her, you will be honest with me. Look at me! You will be honest with me regarding her. Otherwise, I will take your life and hers. Mom. And you can take that to the grave with you.
Why?
Why? Because you lied about her so many times, it's hard to believe that you didn't sleep with her and knock her up. You deserve to die for your lies, as does she, and you will. If you do it again, this is your last and final warning.
Why?
Do you understand me? It's your last and final warning.
It is unsettling to realize how much planning and determination went into the crime, and how many warning signs pointed to a spiral long before the tragedy occurred. In the end, one life was cut short and another was wasted, leaving behind only grief and unanswered questions. it makes me reflect on how important it is to recognize toxic dynamics, to set boundaries, and to seek help before anger hardens into something irreversible. Austin, Texas. Early morning, the kind where the city is barely waking up, but one jewelry store wasn't opening that day. Instead of a bright open sign, people saw a handwritten note taped to the glass, temporarily closed. Right underneath flowers, a couple of cards. Someone had even left a little note. "We love you, Ted." If you didn't know the story, you might think the owner was sick, maybe on vacation. But the truth was darker, and it was already spreading through the news. A well-known Austin jeweler has been killed in what authorities are calling a home invasion. Deputies say they're searching for the shooter or shooters responsible. The man they were talking about was Ted Shaughnessy, owner of Gallery Jewelers. His shop was kind of a landmark in central Austin. Couples went there for engagement rings. Families went there for heirlooms. Ted was the face of it all. Friendly, sharp, the guy you trusted when you were spending serious money. Now he was gone. The Shaughnesseys didn't just run a nice store. They had built a comfortable life in Cedar Valley, out on the west side. Big houses, quiet streets, lots of trees. Deer wandered around sometimes. It was the last place you'd expect a gunfight in the middle of the night. But that's exactly what happened. By the time the morning news hit, people in the area were stunned. A murder in Cedar Valley? Ted of all people? And the way it went down, brutal, senseless, didn't fit the picture at all. Some whispered it must have been a robbery gone bad. Others said maybe someone had a grudge, but nobody knew for sure. All they knew was a family had been torn apart and one of Austin's best-known jewelers was dead. And behind the whispers, one question was already forming. Who would want Ted gone? So here's how it all actually went down. It was March 2nd, 2018. Middle of the night, the kind of quiet where you can hear the air moving through the trees. Ted and his wife, Corey, were fast asleep in their Cedar Valley home. Nothing unusual, just another Friday morning waiting to happen. And then, woof, 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 one of their dogs started going nuts. Now, this wasn't totally normal. They lived in a nice, tucked-away area. Not much traffic, not a lot of noise. If a dog started barking at 4:30 a.m, you knew something was off. Ted checked the clock, rolled out of bed, and grabbed his gun. Makes sense. He was a jeweler. If anyone had a reason to be careful about burglars, it was him. He told Corey he'd check it out. Walked out of the bedroom. She figured it was maybe a deer in the yard, nothing serious. She started to drift back to sleep and then, bang! A single gunshot. Her eyes flew open. A moment later, more shots right outside the bedroom door. Corey's heart was hammering. She grabbed her own gun from the bedside drawer. The hallway was dark, but then a flash. A bright light, like someone shining a tactical flashlight straight at her. Then muzzle flashes, bullets flying. She fired back. Somehow nobody hit each other. It was chaos, flashes, echoes, and her dogs barking like crazy. And then, silence. Corey ran for the closet, clutching the phone, dialing 911. Her voice was frantic. "My husband's been shot. My dogs are barking. Shots fired. Please, help me." When she finally made it out of hiding, the scene was horrifying. Ted lay in the kitchen, dead. 4 bullet wounds. One of their dogs had also been killed. Another was cowering. And the shooters, gone. The police response was a mess. At first, they even went to the wrong house, the neighbours, before finally making it to the Shaughnesseys. By then, it was too late. The only things left behind, shell casings from 2 different guns, 2 shooters, a break-in through their son's window, and Ted Shaughnessy, a father, husband and jeweler shot dead in his own kitchen. Before we get deeper into the investigation, you kind of have to know who the Shaughnesseys were. Because on the surface, this didn't look like a family that should have had enemies. Ted and Corey Shaughnessy had been married for 30 years. Together, they built up Gallery Jewelers, this really nice upmarket jewelry store in central Austin. Ted was the face of it, the guy out front, charming customers, closing deals. Corey was the one behind the scenes, the appraiser, handling the technical side. It worked. Business was good. They had the house in Cedar Valley, one of those big, polished homes tucked into the quiet west side of town. Life looked solid. They also had one son, Nicholas. Nick wasn't their biological kid. They had adopted him from Russia when he was a baby. By 2018, Nick was 19, married to a girl named Jacqueline Edison, and living about 2 hours away in College Station, where she was studying at Texas A&M. So, from the outside, a loving couple, a successful store, a nice home, and a son starting his own family. Pretty picture, right? That's why what happened that night was so shocking. Because everyone who knew Ted and Corey described them as friendly, down-to-earth people. The kind you waved to at the grocery store, who'd help out a neighbour if you needed it. Not exactly the type to get tied up in some dangerous drama. But beneath that polished family photo, yeah, there were cracks. Cracks that would soon split wide open once the investigation started looking closer at Nick, his marriage, and the money problems brewing under the surface. So detectives are staring at this scene thinking, what the hell actually happened here? Ted's on the kitchen floor, 4 gunshot wounds, Corey's shaken, a dog's dead, and the house looks like it was broken into. But nothing was stolen. Jewellery? Still there. Cash? Still there. Electronics? Untouched. The only thing missing, a family handgun, and the window the intruders used, it wasn't just random. It was in Nick's old room. Their son. Turns out Nick admitted he'd used that window plenty of times when he was younger to sneak in and out, and so had his buddies. Cops immediately flagged that. Like, okay, whoever did this didn't just randomly pick that window. They knew it was the weak spot. So, theories start flying. Maybe a revenge thing. Years earlier, Ted had shot a guy during a pawn shop robbery. Maybe someone wanted payback. Or maybe it was Corey herself. I mean, the spouse always gets a look in cases like this. She stood to inherit $1 million in life insurance, plus the house, plus the store. That motive was sitting right there. But the longer they dug, the more things kept pointing back to Nick. See, on paper, Nick looked like a young guy figuring life out. Married to Jacqueline, living in College Station while she studied at A&M. But behind closed doors, his life was falling apart. Nick had gotten obsessed with day trading and crypto. The whole I'll get rich in my 20s dream. His dad even handed him $30,000 to try it out. Instead of making him a genius investor, it made him broke. By 2018, Nick wasn't just failing at trading, he was flat out in debt. He even owed his mum $30,000 from a loan. And the way he handled it, super sketchy. Both he and Jacqueline factory reset their phones just weeks before the murder. Thought they were wiping everything clean. Problem was, Apple keeps stuff in iCloud, and the cops pulled the deleted messages right back. What did they find? Conversations about paying someone $50,000 to do something, which, yeah, didn't take a detective to figure out what that meant. It also turned out Nick had been shopping around for killers. He asked his best friend Spencer if he'd do it. He asked a woman at his apartment complex if she wanted to make some extra money. Could be stripping, could be murder, with 3 skull emojis just in case she missed the point. He even tried asking around movers he hired. Like, the guy wasn't slick. He was desperate. And eventually he found his takers. 2 furniture movers, Johnny Leon and Arian Smith. Nick gave them the missing gun, gave them ammo, and gave them the entry point through his old window. They waited until the house was quiet, snuck in, and the rest you already know. Ted dead, Corey barely escaping. When cops finally sat Johnny and Arian down, their interviews couldn't have been more different. Johnny was stone cold, no emotions, just, yeah, I was there, yeah, I fired shots. Arian, on the other hand, broke down, said he begged Johnny to leave that night, said he couldn't sleep after, and even asked for the death penalty because he felt he deserved to die for what he did. But either way, the damage was done. These weren't shadowy assassins from some underworld. They were just regular guys roped in by a spoiled kid who couldn't handle losing money. And Nick, he wasn't some mastermind. He was just a broke crypto bro who thought murder was a shortcut to cash. Jacqueline Jackie Edison, Nick's wife, wasn't exactly innocent. She helped cover for him, even gave a check to the killers, $1,000, which is wild. But here's the thing, she never actually pulled the trigger. When it came time for consequences, she got probation instead of prison. Part of it was the law seeing her as more of a side player, part of it was luck, and maybe some courtroom leniency. She eventually divorced Nick, distancing herself from the whole nightmare. Nick Shaughnessy ended up getting 35 years in prison for murder. The two movers, Johnny and Arian, also got 35 years each. Arian, the one who seemed genuinely shaken, had asked for the death penalty but didn't get it. Corey, the mum, was cleared. She never killed anyone. Justice in the legal sense came down hard on the actual perpetrators and the son who orchestrated it. At the end of the day, it all came down to money and greed. Nick's obsession with day trading, losing money, wanting his parents' life insurance, and trying to cover his failures drove him to plan the unthinkable.
Was directly asked you to kill his parents? Yes. He said, after my parents go, I will have $8 million.
I'm not going to sit here and say that I didn't do this. I'm not going to play a victim card. I most certainly played my role, and I wholeheartedly regret it.